Good morning, everyone. I am beginning with ringing our peace bowl. This morning, we ring the peace bowl for our collective hope of peace on earth. We acknowledge that these lands that we love are the lands of the Yavapai people, the Wipukepas, the Tokepayas, and the Cuevcapayas, and the Yavapai. We give thanks for the sun that rose this morning beautifully. Let us affirm what has been true this entire year, for we are almost reaching the 1 year mark of online services. Let us listen together. We have gotten by with a little help from our friends, all of us.
Here comes the sun. Rise and shine. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Prescott, Arizona. I'm Suki Jones, your worship associate this morning. We extend a warm welcome to all. We're glad you're able to join us. We hope you're in good health. And if you qualify, we hope you are getting your appointments for your vaccinations. We want to stay connected, so please join us for the breakout rooms after the service. This is the time to chat with new friends, old friends, and if this is your first time with us, please join us in these breakout rooms. And also, check out our website for more information about us. That's prescottuu.org. This is the mission statement of our congregation. We are a compassionate, spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. We extend our thanks to all who contribute to the presentation of our service this morning. Heather Knowles for technical support, Mary Lou Prince for musical direction, and Ainsley O'Donnell and her family for their video today. We are still in community, and we continue with some of our meetings and activities via internet. So please continue to check the weekly peak, our website, and Reverend Patty's videos for announcements. Don't forget the Wednesday forum, Friday lunch with the minister, and also importantly, remember our annual congregational dinner is this coming Saturday. This year in the form of a complimentary takeout meal you can enjoy in your own dining room while gathering with others via Zoom. However, your request must be in to Marianne Erickson by tonight. So more details on all of this can be found in today's order of service, which there's a link for in the email that you received today. And don't forget Children's Faith Development today at 11:30 via Zoom. We begin our service in the Unitarian Universalist tradition of lighting the chalice, and our chalice lighter today is Fred Krapps. And the reading is titled Thirsty by Gregory Pelly. And so we gather from the ebb and flow of our lives, thirsty for connection to others, thirsty for connection to ourselves, thirsty for connection to the larger life. As we light this chalice, may all who gather here be filled with joy and hope, filled with compassion and love. Here may we be filled so that we may pour ourselves out into the world. And now words of gathering from Reverend Patty.
Good morning, everyone. I am happy to be here, and you are a beautiful sight. I can see you all in these little boxes, and across from me is Mary Lou giving Louis a grooming, which is also a beautiful sight. He's quite a long-haired poodle by now. I just went out to take a deep breath of the Prescott air, which is one of the reasons we thought moving here would be wonderful. And I wonder if you have caught that scent of spring. I hope that you take a chance to think of spring as you go outside. This morning, I begin with the words of a great mind and heart, Václav Havel. He led Czechoslovakia through a transition to more freedom. I respect him very much. He wrote, "Hope, it is an orientation of the spirit, an orientation of the heart. It transcends the world that is immediately experienced and is anchored somewhere beyond its horizons. Hope, in this deep and powerful sense, is not the same as joy that things are going well or willingness to invest in enterprises that are obviously headed for early success, but rather an ability to work for something because it is good, not just because it stands a chance to succeed. At the heart of the work that we do in this world, at the heart of Havel's hope, is the willingness to work towards and invest in something that is worthy. In Prescott, sometimes the odds have been great. Your hope has fired you up to stand for the young boy Mario who was on the mural of the Miller Valley School. It's fired you up to go to the square to be a presence for peace and justice. Let us join our Granite Peak singers in the fire of commitment.
When the fire of
Please join me now in saying our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this congregation, the quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant together. And now let us listen to Ainsley O'Donnell and her husband Grant and child Hokulani about why they belong to our community.
Hi, my name is Hokulani.
Hi, my name is Grant.
And I'm Ainsley. We joined Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Church 2 months ago after a year of participating in the community because we have found GPUU to be a safe space to connect, create, learn, and grow. I convinced Grant to join us in attending Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Church after my experience attending the first UU Church of Columbus with my grandmother. I am thankful for the smaller community, including the kindred spirits, organizing pagan celebration and providing classes. We love the weekly services. Reverend Patty's words and Mary Lou's music are so cleansing and uplifting. We enjoy the craft bags we receive each week from the children's program to connect with other kids, creating and learning new things. We were grateful to experience the Buddhist meditation meetings once before quarantine. I'm grateful for the accessibility of the book club with the books being provided and the Transforming Hearts collective discussion. Thank you to Reverend Patty and the GPUU board for supporting me and my voting support event, as well as asking me to share my passions in service. Please join us in supporting Granite Peak's Joining Together to Share Our Gifts campaign. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ainsley, Grant, and Hokulani. Thank you. And now we are going to start our joys and sorrows with joy. I want you to look at a photograph of Clara Rose, who was born just a year ago with her brother, Julian. So as we ring our bowl today and think about all that is on our hearts, let us hold them with us. We gather today with joys and sorrows, our personal ones and the ones from this world. 1 year ago, a child was born, Clara Rose, and she's been learning to roll over and sit up and walk, all out of our sight because of COVID. And we are blessed to have them as part of our community. And today, we have caught the joys of their smiles. In our community, we also have the continued joy of Taya Park's recovery and of Karen Anderson, who continues to recover, and Frank Malley, who has finished his chemotherapy in Phoenix and is on the road to recovery. I spoke with him this week, and he is feeling like a new ministry is unfolding before him. Let us hold Dick Fox, who is surrounded now as his health is weakening. He's lovingly surrounded by both his daughter and his son. Let us hold Eunice Lovejoy and the love that surrounds her, our love, and the love of her sons. And Janer Eldridge, surrounded by Peter and Joe. And let us hold Peter and Joe. Peter, who has just received the word that he has told you as well, that he is now officially legally blind. Let us hold him and his courage. Let us hold him through these times when he is being lifted by someone who's just joined our congregation, who happens to be an expert in helping people with low vision. We also hold the people of Texas, many of whom are now doing much better, and those who have suffered from these massive tornadoes in North Carolina and Georgia. Let us remember, too, the people who have experienced flooding in Uganda, Peru, and Ecuador. Let us remember the people of Syria, the tragedy of war and huge refugee crisis that continues in that country, where there's also been heavy flooding that damaged or destroyed 25,000 tents of refugees, where 60% of the population, 12 million people, are unable to meet their basic food and nutrition requirements. There is much in this world. And in this country, all over the place, flags were flown at half-mast as the number of people who died from COVID rose to over 500,000, 20% of the total deaths worldwide. Let us hold this country and the world, all those who are mourning the death of loved ones, and those who are experiencing those after effects, and those who are angry because of the possibility that the deaths of their loved ones could have been prevented. Let us hold the families around us who are in need of food. We give thanks that many of them are finding a way to our doors, and may we learn the ways of justice that will make our food pantry obsolete. After I ring this bell, I invite you to say the names of those who are on your hearts and minds, whose names I have not mentioned, into this silence of our community. After some time of silence, I invite you to join me in a meditation and prayer. Please join me in a spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, we give thanks for this place, for this community. We give thanks for all those who are showing up in all the ways that they show up for each other. We, especially today, consider the earth that is receiving nourishment from the snow. Let us continue to feel this strong connection we have with this earth and learn the ways to bring her peace and to be able to stop these changes that are happening, that are bringing such suffering in the world with with climate change, and we ask for ways of joining into that. We ask for blessings on all those who are suffering. We ask for all those who are within this community to reach out in their needs. There are many who are experiencing effects of that second vaccination. May they reach out to us if there is a need. We give thanks for the vaccinations that are getting us closer and closer to being able to gather together once again. For all these things, we give thanks. Amen. And now let us sing with Clara Rose and Julian, Walking with You.
As we prepare to take the offering this morning, let us embrace the feeling of connection and community that we have when we gather each week. Let us remember that this congregation and its programs are supported by your generosity. We also give back to the greater community through our Seeds of Support program. And during the month of March, the recipient is Hungry Kids Project. You can read more about this organization in your order of service. To give during this distance time, please go to prescottuu.org. On the bottom left-hand side, click the word donate to contribute. The link is also available in the chat on this video. What is given in love is received in gratitude. Blessed be. And now enjoy this musical interlude.
My reading this morning comes from an adaptation of the Greek scriptures Some of you may know the Greek scriptures by the New Testament, but now that is what they are called in seminaries. A long time ago, a large crowd had gathered and was following Rabbi Jesus. He called to his disciples and said, "I have compassion for these people. They've already been with me a long time and have nothing to eat. I don't want to send them away hungry, or they may collapse on the way." His disciples answered, "Where could we get enough bread in this remote place to feed such a crowd?" "How many loaves do you have?" Jesus asked. "7," they replied, "and a few small fish." So the rabbi told the crowd to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and when he had given thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples, and they in turn to the people. They all ate and were satisfied. And afterwards, the disciples picked up 7 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was 4,000 men and women and children. In preparing for this, I hope to find a video to play after that reading. And so I Googled loaves and fishes, hoping that I could find an interesting video to show you. I found the Loaves and Fishes organizations of Minnesota, Charlotte, North Carolina, Sacramento, San Jose, Naperville, Illinois, and Massachusetts. And in the website with Massachusetts, I found this on their homepage. Are you choosing between heating your home, buying medications, or feeding yourself and your family? If you live in Ayr, Devens, Dunstable, Groton, Harvard, Littleton, or Shirley, we can help. Loaves and Fishes' mission is to provide nutritious food in an atmosphere of kindness and respect to individuals in need. At their beginnings of all of these pantries, someone or some people in that area had looked out in their neighborhoods into the places around them. And they had seen, as Rabbi Jesus saw in that crowd, that people didn't have anything to eat. And they had felt compassion, and they had not wanted them to be hungry. And in that story that has been told over and over again, Rabbi Jesus gave thanks, grounded in the compassion that he was feeling, and the food that they had multiplied. In the stories of all those food pantries, I imagine that they had days such as the one we experienced in our sanctuary in December, of crowds of people showing up with food donations that filled up our entryway. And then, as we were trying to organize along the back wall, we had to keep changing things because we had more and more beans and more rice and maseka than we ever thought we would receive. This experience feels like a miracle, that people are answering that call, that they are bringing food, and that people who are living in precarious poverty, our neighbors who are choosing between heating homes, buying medications, paying rent, and feeding themselves and their children, are finding some relief. When I show up on Tuesday morning and walk around, I can see that the hot sauce area is now full up again, and the masika that was completely depleted is now full of goods, showing that people are finding their way to us to give and to fill important needs. This feels like a miracle. I wonder, have you ever been sitting in a crowd with food in your stomach, but hungry for something else? for an answer to a life problem, for a friend who has similar values, for a friend who is simply loving, for that inexplicable feeling of not being alone on this planet. I wonder about that group who gathered for something and then went away with a different kind of abundance. What might have happened? In my newsletter, I write about an article I read a number of years ago by a physician named Andrew Weil, who is a leader in integrative medicine that combines Western and Eastern modalities. He wrote that as people age, there are certain factors that make them more likely to be happy. And one of those factors was being part of a faith community. One of the reasons why Lou and I pursued finding a congregation when we moved to Arizona was to find that happiness. And one morning when we drove, at first about an hour to get to a congregation in Northwest Tucson that had an intergenerational group and a female minister, which was amazing for me with my upbringing, we felt a lot of fear and trepidation, wondering if it was possible to be accepted in a religious community after 24 years of living without one. We had memories from our early years of being part of a caring community and then being rejected by that community. And that had been a huge loss. And that is not the focus of our time today. I only say that to help you understand the hunger that we felt for the possibility of a community and why that hunger was mixed with fear when we entered those front doors. And now in Tucson, sometimes when we pass the restaurant Mimi's in Northwest Tucson, where the small group of newcomers and welcoming team members gathered and exchanged stories during lunch together, we remember that time. We were fed. We went home with hope in the possibility of a community. That possibility strengthened. And then a few months later, we decided we were always late because it was a whole hour to get up to that congregation. So we joined a different congregation closer to our home, one that was not intergenerational, one in Green Valley, an age-restricted community that was closer. We were too young to live in that town, and neither of us was interested in age-restricted communities. And there was only one couple in the first gathering who were closer to our age, who lived in a trailer out in the desert with 3 children. A majority of the members were in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. And then when we joined, a steward came and talked to us about giving. And we said, we will give music and storytelling. And our steward, a straightforward, some might call rude person, said, we need your money. And that was the year. It was 2007, and we were adjusting to that big move. And the work that I had tried to, that I had really worked on having as what I called our bridge. I was a international founding administrator to an international journal. That work stopped the month before we moved to that place. And we were also ceramic artists with art that was being shown in a gallery in Tubac. And if you remember 2007, it was the year people stopped buying art or people stopped buying houses. It was just a year of recession. So we were unable to give a pledge that first year. And we began to understand that that was something we really wanted to work towards. It was part of being a member of that community. During those first years, months and years, I learned that happiness sometimes comes quickly from community, as it did when we got to know people. Marjorie Tyndall, she became our Arizona mother, whose life forever changed ours. And for many others who, on our first Christmas in 2007, when a recession was settling in and our two-back gallery kept saying, "Can't you put your prices lower?" And my brother, marvelous man that he is, gave us an order for 25 nativity sets, which we made. And when the congregation found out that we were making nativity sets, many of them came to our home and ordered one. And some couldn't order the mother and father and child, which I didn't quite understand as much as I do now. They ordered lots of goats and sheep and donkeys. And we had a cat that everyone loved that was part of that nativity. I didn't realize at the time what a stretch it was for them to do that, but they wanted to support us. And there were also unhappy things that happened in that congregation at the same time. A minister left very unhappy, and there was gossip, and there was backbiting, and there was kindness. We began to learn that the happiness that Andrew Weil had said there was in a religious community, that filled the hunger that we had for community, came through connecting with each other and with grappling with other humans. And I believe, and I have seen, that people who persevere through all that community brings are rewarded with something of great value. In this world, in our society, in which humans are finding more and more ways to isolate, not just temporarily in this pandemic, but through dependence on social media rather than real humans, and all the other ways that we have isolated before the pandemic. In this congregation and congregations all over the world, we hold the possibility of community. And in Unitarian Universalism, we are striving for something even bigger than that, beloved community. A community that is based on those hard to live out values of justice and respect and compassion for ourselves and our neighbors. And with growing understanding of who is our neighbor. This is a difficult struggle because we are trying to forge community in a place where the individual is king. Do you know that in the world, the United States is seen as being populated by those lonesome cowboys out on the range, their hair lifting in the breeze, not having to worry about what anyone else is thinking or doing? As many of you know, my family is from Wyoming, and a favorite ad for my siblings during the pandemic shows a man on a horse in a landscape, no one in sight for hundreds of miles, and written below that cowboy is this: Wyoming, practicing social distancing since 1890, the year it became a state. And there are t-shirts, Wyoming, social distancing world champions since 1890. And all of you, if you are with us today listening, you have chosen or are thinking of choosing to join us. And in the process, you have probably had to give up a bit of that distance because you are choosing community. If we return now to that long ago time in Palestine, people are arriving at a place out in the countryside to listen to a rabbi, a teacher, and to have some time with each other. A different kind of time than people have if they go to a CWAG meeting or Prescott Indivisible. Because although at that meeting and at our meetings, we all talk about what to do, what we're going to do, this gathering is also focused on how we are going to be and how we want to become. And in that gathering, all those years ago, something happened. Rabbi Jesus gave thanks, and in that story that's been told over and over again and inspired kindness, baskets that had received a paltry couple of sandwiches on the first round were filled with more than enough for all. I wonder if after hearing those words that the rabbi said of thanks, one brave woman or man jump-started the miracle by dragging her big hamper filled with all manner of tasty food up to the front of the crowd, where I imagined there were cloths spread out or portable picnic tables like the ones we have in Davis Hall that we put up for a potluck. And after she spread the plenty from her hamper out before the crowd, the second person started for the front, and then almost everyone was opening their hampers, and there was so much food that everyone went home with something left in their hamper for the journey. All of a sudden, or little by little, the well-being of their neighbors, the people sitting around them, seemed as important as the well-being of their families. And this morning, we are here. Some of us are new to this community. Some have been members since the beginning, hoping that this community not only survives, but that it flourishes in the coming years. I wonder if that woman in the ancient crowd looked around her as we can look around this Zoom circle and saw the people who had visited her when she was sick in the past year, the ones who had helped her move, who had held the ladder when she was up painting a wall in the synagogue that had looked a little shabby, who had painted that ugly orange outbuilding a beautiful cream and sage, and who had put up a free library. In the midst of all those thoughts, her heart began beating fast, and she knew what she had to do. She stood up and she began dragging that hamper up to the front. And then others rushing towards her helped her. And then they brought theirs and they filled those tables. Community was being made, and the future of that gathering was being secured. People's hearts turned from their own concerns to the concerns of the people around them. And if their experience was like mine, they were filled with happiness. This year, Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation has big dreams. We dream of hiring a half-time social justice coordinator and keeping all of the other positions filled and giving a small raise to our administrator, faith development coordinator, and music director, and of continuing to grow our community out into our neighborhood through our free libraries, a community garden, storytelling, and our food pantry, a neighborhood that is a happy place for Clara Rose, Julian, Ainsley and Grant's child, Hokulani, whom you met earlier in the service, and Leon, Lila, Tolliver, Audrey, Tiffany, Canyon, Noah, and Nico, and our neighborhood children who are now using those coloring books and crayons from our free library. By giving this year, we are affirming that hope that Václav Havel describes as the willingness to invest in something that was worthy. I think that it is also true that through giving, we create that hope. If we are willing to support and invest in something that is worthy, then we have more hope. We have more hope that others are doing the same. We begin to live in a world of possibility. I think that another part that was left out of that account in the Greek scriptures written thousands of years ago is the happiness that overtook the group through their giving, that overtook that woman who brought food to our food pantry in December when we find ourselves all of a sudden in that elusive world of the beloved community. I am grateful for the possibilities that are among us for finding that Unitarian Universalist heaven. Together we may find that place. Amen, and may it be so. And now please join the Granite Peak Singers in Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot see like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
And now, because I haven't captured any videos of the happy faces of people handing in their pledge cards, let us watch again the woman who came to our food pantry in December. This is a glimpse into the hope that is born when we are supporting something worthy. May we all find that happiness, and may that day come soon when we can take off our masks and smile at each other face to face. Here is what happiness looked like in our sanctuary in December.
It just felt good. It just felt so good. I had so much fun. I mean, you can see, right? I had fun. Yeah. So anyway, it's very verklempt. I know that's an overused word, but it's really moving that these are individuals. This is not an organized food bank. This is people who had a list that you put together because you knew what your people wanted, and gosh,
Wow.
I mean, just look, it's crazy. It's awesome.
And now I invite you to sing along with Simple Gifts, if you know this song, Simple Gifts. What a beautiful earth we live in. And now we will extinguish our chalice so that you can move into, for what some of you is the best part of the service, when you get to talk with each other. Let us say our extinguishing words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Did you notice whose dog that was? Norma West's Honey Girl. And I wish I could show you Louie, who is looking quite fine after an hour of being brushed. So if you would like to stay on, I hope that in your breakout rooms you think of talking about these gifts that you want to give our beloved community and thus make a beloved community. Thank you so much.